We're going to need to get used to doing this, but filed this one under not surprising, but shocking. And yes, we should have been prepared for this. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't shock us to our cores. Earlier today, Donald Trump has said he is going to set up reparations for white people. Yes, Donald has said he's going to ask the Department of Justice to penalize colleges that consider diversity, equity, inclusion, also known as DEI, and fine them so he can pay quote unquote restitution to the most oppressed group in our country's history. And if you don't realize I'm being sarcastic, trust me, I'm being extraordinarily sarcastic. Restitution to white people whom he considers the real victims of racial discrimination, which is fascinating coming from somebody who is a DEI hire.
Furthermore, I will direct the Department of Justice to pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and schools that persist in explicit, unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity will not only have their endowments taxed, but through budget reconciliation, I will advance a measure to have them fined up to the entire amount of their endowment. A portion of the seized funds will then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we are going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America. Thank you.
Yes, real education in America. So, hey, don't say we didn't warn you. We're also finding out today more information about Donald's cabinet choices. The cabinet as a whole is coming into clearer focus, as well as other nominations, appointments, one of which he technically should have absolutely nothing to do with, and that is the race for the new Senate Majority Leader in the wake of Mitch McConnell stepping down from that position. Rick Scott is Donald's nominee of choice. He is one of the most pro-Donald voices in the Senate, which is actually saying something. And Donald and his minions have been trying to boost Scott, who is an underdog. He is not Mitch McConnell's choice. He is in favor of his deputies, John Thune and John Cornyn, who, by the way, will also be terrible, but they will be perhaps slightly less terrible. But again, this is not something a president-elect is supposed to have anything to do with. It's very clear that Scott will do whatever it takes in order to turn the Senate into Donald's own personal fiefdom. He says that he will advance the new administration's agenda, which will harm about, 90% of the country with maximum speed. Here's that clip.
I'm a business guy. Successful business guys get things done. I want the Donald Trump agenda implemented. I want his nominees confirmed as quickly as we can get those nominees confirmed so we can get to work. We're going to be able to do some things through reconciliation, everything we can do. We need to maximize everything we can do to help Donald Trump get his agenda done. If we don't have the right leader in the Senate, then what's going to happen is all the things that Donald Trump wants to do is going to get bogged down, not going to happen. Nominees won't get done. So I am absolutely committed to do whatever it takes to get his nominees confirmed and get his agenda passed.
Okay, so first of all, what Scott is telling us there is that maybe making sure he's not the majority leader is one of the very few things we can do to slow Donald down. Also, I know facts don't matter anymore, but the only reason Rick Scott is a quote-unquote successful businessman is because he committed Medicare fraud in the state of Florida to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Donald Trump is not and never has been a business success unless you consider declaring bankruptcy 6 times and being found guilty of business fraud to the tune of $500 million success. But, I guess in our new America, that is the case. Mike Huckabee was picked to be sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Israel's ambassador, or the United States ambassador to Israel, I should say. Huckabee's intended nomination comes as Donald has promised to align U.S. foreign policy more closely with Israel's interests as it wages wars against Iran-backed Hamas and Hezbollah. So we are going to have, and let's face it, these may only be nominations, but we know anybody Donald chooses is going to be put in place. An apocalyptic evangelical Baptist Christian who believes in the rapture, which last I checked doesn't work out well for anybody but those among us who consider ourselves saved Christians. That ain't me. And last I checked, it's pretty much nobody who lives in the Middle East. Climate denier Lee Zeldin was picked to head the Environmental Protection Agency. Zeldin's a former congressperson from New York. He proposes to roll back climate regulations as the head of the EPA. And here's what he outlines as his day one priority.
Trump announced Monday he will nominate former Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York. Here's what Zeldin said about his priorities in an interview shortly after the announcement was made public.
So day one and the first 100 days, we have the opportunity to roll back regulations. There are regulations that the left wing of this country have been advocating through regulatory power that ends up causing businesses to go in the wrong direction.
I know it's sort of becoming cliche at this point, but George Orwell is going to get really, really tired of spinning in his grave. Because, of course, Zeldin was lying, first of all. And secondly, the Environmental Protection Agency, which is designed to protect things like, I don't know, clean air, clean water, et cetera, is going to be in service to protecting industries that are trying to pollute this planet even further. Of course, this is also happening in the context of the Supreme Court, or I should say the illegitimate, corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court, getting rid of the Chevron doctrine, which gave preference to the expertise of the regulatory institutions like the EPA. So that's out the window. So Zeldin and people like him, climate change deniers like him, will have free reign to accelerate the crisis facing this planet. South Dakota Governor Christy Noem was tapped to be head of the Department of Homeland Security. Of course, Noem is most famous for imposing a statewide mask mandate, refusing to impose a statewide mask mandate during COVID-19, but also for murdering her puppy.
South Dakota Governor Christy Noem is on the defense after strong backlash about a story of the governor shooting her dog.
It's a story that Noem recounts in a new book about a short-haired pointer, a wire-haired pointer hunter dog that she had on her farm, who she says was untrainable. She tried to take the dog out hunting with other dogs while the dog had a great time running around. It scared all the birds away. It was a disaster. On the way back from that hunting trip, she writes that she stopped by to see some friends. The dog jumped out of the truck and started attacking her friends' chickens, killing several of them, even whipping around to try to bite Noem. Noem says she then took the dog out to a gravel pit, George, and shot the dog. She said that, quote, "I hated that dog."
Yeah, I'm sure we can all rest assured that a woman who murdered a puppy for acting like a puppy is going to treat human beings she considers vermin any more humanely. I just want to take a quick second before we continue to ask you, please, to subscribe to our channel. It's free. It just takes clicking on the subscribe button, and it's now more important than ever to support independent media. Continuing with the new so-called border czar, Tom Homan, whom we spoke about earlier today. Homan says that mass deportations are imminent. He said, quote, "They ain't seen shit yet. I will run the biggest mass deportation operation the country has ever seen," in this clip.
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. families can be deported together.
They ain't seen yet. Wait till 2025. Trump comes back in January. I'll be on his heels coming back, and I will run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen.
I'm sick and tired of hearing about the family separation. And I'm still being sued over that, so come get me. I don't give a right? I don't give a what anybody says.
Trump comes back, I come back. And I will run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen.
Ooh, what a tough guy. I mean, seriously, these are the thugs tens of millions of Americans have decided to put in charge of our country, which is going to take a little getting used to. I would actually suggest we not get used to it. And by the way, Mike, you might want to consider this. Yes, you have your psychopathic notions of what we need to keep America safe. If you try to enact these mass deportation schemes of yours, you are going to destroy America, both economically and, dare I say, spiritually. But these people don't care about that. They will make lots of money no matter who gets hurt, or they'll probably make more money if more people get hurt. Of course, we're still dealing with Elon Musk, who is proving to have increasing influence in Donald's camp. Stephen Miller, an actual Nazi, is being appointed deputy chief of staff, who will be one of the most important and influential and powerful people in the executive branch. And Marco Rubio, whom Josh Marshall described as a thin slice of soap, will be, well, I don't know if he will be, but we know he will be. He's been nominated to be Secretary of State. Now, if you'll remember, and you may not, because the end of 2020 was kind of a busy season, Donald Trump briefly implemented something called Schedule F. This is a system whereby nonpartisan civil servants can be removed without cause and replaced by loyalists. This is un-American, anti-democratic, and unconstitutional. However, this scheme was explicitly laid out in Project 2025. If only anybody in corporate media had bothered to read it and report on it. We're already seeing this in action. Robert Kennedy, who has no business being anywhere near the federal government, let alone being near any institutions that have anything to do with the health and well-being of human beings, says that he plans for health services to fire 600 employees. That's from the National Institute of Health. This is a new administrative purge. And if you think he's going to stop at the NIH, he's also probably gunning for the Centers for Disease Control and the FDA, among others. Now we get to the fun part of the news today, as if you weren't already having enough fun. There's a new executive order being planned. Donald's transition team is considering to draft an executive order that establishes a quote-unquote warrior board of retired senior military personnel with the power to review 3- and 4-star officers and to recommend removals of any deemed unfit for leadership. What do you want to bet that the long disgraced Michael Flynn will be in charge of that one? What does that mean exactly? Well, potentially any general, any high-ranking military officer who refuses to follow an illegal order, which they are constitutionally bound to do, will be unlawfully removed by what is essentially a star chamber and replaced by sycophants who pledge their complete loyalty to Donald Trump, telling the Constitution of the United States of America to go fuck itself. Have we had enough yet? Yeah, well, buckle up, because the fascists are just getting started. Just a quick reminder, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. It does not cost anything. It's just a way to show your support for independent media. Also, if you subscribe, you'll be alerted every time new videos drop. We are increasing our content every day and amplifying more and more essential voices in independent media. So subscribe, like our videos, share our videos, and thank you so much for supporting us.